I'm just trying to describe it because it's so big now I cannot show you though. Got catch 22 here. So this is a real service. I'm just wrapping in Hystrix. So the way you wrap it is essentially you just have to extend Hystrix command. I'll talk about other ways you can implement Hystrix, but this is just the basic how you would do it. And then you have in your constructor, then you would set all the timeout value, etc. In this case, like 2 seconds, for example. The standard way is basically you would pass in the parameters in the constructor, and then you just have to override one method called run. Okay, it's just like your thread, runnable. And within that, then you can invoke. Like my example is just Apache HTTP client calling the server to a post, get the response back, right? And I configure and I pick up the URL from dynamic properties, so I can override it. And I do configure the timeout. So if there's a timeout, I will throw a Hystrix runtime timer exception. So now instead of Hystrix reporting if I just let this exception bubble up, Hystrix will report as a failure, not a timeout. That's the critical difference I want to highlight. That's it. And then if everything's successful, I'll return the map, right? And in my unit tests, I'm not sure if you're familiar with wiremark, but if you're not, you can read up on it. Yeah, essentially, I just created a wiremark so that I don't have to go out to the network and call it, and I can control the delay, and I can also set the status, right? So I wrote several tests here, and I'm gonna walk you through each one of these. The first one is, for example, I want to get this temperature of Mountain View. This is where I live, where I work. When I execute, this is a blocking call here, right? So I would execute it and get the result back, and I can print out the value, okay? This actually gives back like the humidity, a whole 9 yards. So that's one way you can invoke Hystrix. This is a blocking call, okay? The second way is you can say, instead of, if you notice here, say .execute, the second way you can say .queue. What you get back is a Java feature. So now if you have to call the service multiple times, you can just keep doing that and then just block on the future.get, right? So now you can have concurrency using Hystrix. You don't have to manage your own thread using the thread pool that come with Hystrix, right? Oh, one subtle thing I didn't talk about was in Hystrix, the way they organize thread pool is based on the group name. So what they do is for every group you create, it would create a set of thread pool. Default is size of 10. Okay, so if you need more, you need to configure that, right? The default's 10. The other thing is my recommendation is if you do use thread pool, you want one dependency, one thread pool per dependency. Right. Your dependency might have 10, 20 different endpoint services, but you want to just kind of create one thread pool for that dependencies, right? So each one of those, if you have 20 endpoints with 20 commands, but then you want to share the same key for the group so that they're all in the same thread pool. The reason is when one dependency is down, you want to limit the blast radius. This is how you can limit it by using a thread pool, right? So you want to name it the same. Okay. So that's just wiremark, that's synchronous, async. Okay, so the async case get, like I just went through that. Now, the next one is, I'm not sure anybody heard of Ix Java, reactive? A few people, okay. So just a little side history. Why it is there is because Mr. Ben Christensen wrote both of them open source framework. So original Hystrix is just doing this thing, but then at some point he wants everything to be non-blocking I/O, reactive pattern. Basically, reactive is basically the same as JavaStream, functional programming. So he rewrote Hystrix from the ground up based on RxJava. Now, RxJava existed way before Java